In a 10th Funtime Foxy Mama, I saw a couple of comments on the previous part stating that Funtime Foxy is a girl. First of all, it's a robot, so calm down. But secondly, the character's gender was left purposely vague by Scott, using the pronouns for males and females in the Freddy Files book, which definitely caused some confusion in the community. However, I don't know where you got the idea that Funtime Foxy was exclusively female, since in Ultimate Custom Night they are voiced by a man and are using male pronouns exclusively. So in fact, Funtime Foxy is most likely a male. Is it because of like the rosy cheeks and like the pink and stuff? Because dudes can wear pink, dudes can wear makeup, dudes can look however they want. They're also present in the Ladies Night game mode, but I feel like the voice acting in addition to the exclusive pronouns in Ultimate Custom Nights makes it pretty safe to say male, but I mean, again, we still don't know, so don't come in the comments saying what? In a 9, Chasing Tail. Funtime Foxy is actually the first and potentially only iteration of Foxy to have a tail, which is really weird and something I didn't realize until someone pointed out in the comments. Somehow, every version of Foxy up until now didn't have a tail, and Funtime Foxy did. I don't know what the purpose of the tail is. Maybe it's meant for balance more than the sensors on the bottom of his feet, or if it was just some random design choice by Scott, like, yeah, let's add a tail this time. Or if it was just meant to be a diversion or just for the lol bits and gigs. Haha. See what I did there? There is no real explanation as to why Scott made Foxy have a tail all of a sudden, but maybe it was to confuse us on the gender, since maybe tails are associated with elegance and that's typically a more female attribute. Who knows, man? Scott probably doesn't even know anymore himself. He's just like, yeah, I had a tail. They're counting toes, a tail's gonna matter. In an 8, 5 souls are better than 1. Thanks to the FNAF novels, we learned that Funtime animatronics are all possessed by the original group of missing children. Since after learning that the originals were possessed, William melted their endoskeletons down and used this combined metal from all endoskeletons to make the endoskeletons of the Funtimes, meaning that Funtime Foxy is in theory possessed by Fritz, Gabriel, Mike, Susie, and maybe even Cassidy. And Baby is possessed by all of the above, including Elizabeth, who ends up taking over. Pretty insane if you ask me. I can hardly handle half the soul that I have in my body. Imagine 5. God.
Number 7, missing eyes. That's right, LOLBIT is not just missing eyebrows, but is also missing their eyes. So I guess they don't have to worry about things dripping into their eyes. They don't really have them, in the conventional sense, at least. Which makes LOLBIT one of the creepiest alternate variations on the Foxy animatronic. Namely because while Foxy as a pirate might be missing an eye, LOLBIT is missing both eyes. Instead of eyes like Funtime Foxy, where LOLBIT should be, there are just 2 little pinpricks of bright white light. How LOLBIT lost her eyes, we don't know. It is possible, of course, that she was designed without them, like her eyebrows, though I'm not sure which idea there is more terrifying. Did she lose her eyes? Or was someone like, yeah, we're gonna make this animatronic super creepy.
And at 6, Catfish. This could very well all be an illusion. The actual appearance of Funtime Foxy could be horrifically disfigured, leaking, and gross for all we know. Why do I think this may be the case? Well, actually thanks to Funtime Freddy. Or if you can remember, we can see a sound illusion disc on the sternum when repairing him in Sister Location. Meaning that since that red light is flashing, all of this could be an illusion. And this not only includes Funtime Foxy's appearance, but the appearance of the other characters as well. And the whole damn Sister Location, honestly. Those researchers could have just been because of the disc. Same thing with the Biddy Baps and why we can only pick exotic butters. It makes us think that we're collecting money even though we're not, and it's only exotic butters. It changes my whole outlook on the game, and it's something that we don't talk about enough. Now I'm gonna have to include it on Tiny Details Part 7 because I'm running out of things. And at 5, First Animatronics. Some of the first animatronics built by William Afton featured claw mechanisms that were able to hide away items inside them. This is one of the best fast facts we got, because thanks to this line, we know that William intended on killing even before acquiring Fredbear's Family Diner, since that was the first location. And the only animatronics we see have a claw mechanism are the ones from Sister Location. Baby is the only one we actually see use the claw, but with containment chambers being present, we can assume the other Funtimes have them as well. Which means the Funtimes were made before they opened the first Freddy Fazbear's location. Hence why William was able to open Circus Baby so quickly when he learned that Fazbear's was going to close. Which means if not for Baby's line of being on stage for one day, we wouldn't really know when Sister Location takes place. Or at least we would have to question it. In a 4, Floating Feet. In the famous blueprints sheet from FNAF 6, we can see a wireframe version of Funtime Foxy, and in this wireframe we see how the endoskeleton fits into the shell of the animatronic. However, thanks to this, we can see that Funtime Foxy's feet are floating? Why? How thick is the shell on the bottom of the foot to make the endoskeleton float so much? It's not a big detail, but it's still confusing and weird. Most of you don't care, probably, and none of you will find this scary, but I do. This is the scariest thing to me, because why the absolute is the endoskeleton floating? What does it mean? It's a double rainbow! Ah! Getting close to the end in number 3 entered. In sister location, BALOR ends up getting scooped out by Baby, at least I'm pretty sure it was by Baby, and then her parts end up being used to help create Ennard. Her endoskeleton is used to form his upper body, and her eyes are used to help him disguise himself more successfully as a human, even though they only really serve as design until he shoves himself into Ennard. I mean, like, you can see all the eyes all over his body, and then when he spits them out like Ennard spaghetti, you can see just eyes flying out of him. So, I don't know why that part's listed on the wiki, but hey, who am I to argue with the wiki? You know, I'm me. I'm gonna argue with every robot I can. And into Showtime. The Showtime mechanic has always confused me, but I looked it up and it's actually fairly simple. Basically, the Showtime stage has a sign telling you when the show is happening, and you need to be viewing the stage at the moment that the hour starts to avoid getting jump scared. Do it successfully and the Showtime will be delayed, which can cause issues which I'll talk about next. You can use strategy to make sure you catch it, since each hour of the game lasts 45 seconds exactly. So if you're able to count out the seconds, you can time when you need to be looking at the Showtime stage, but you can't look at it even a split second after you're supposed to, otherwise you lose. So you need to be looking at it at the moment the hour changes, rather than, oh yeah, it's about to turn, let's go. Because like, you have to be there before the time, you know, like show up 3 hours before your flight. Yeah. Finally, in at number 1, irony. The mechanic of the Showtime can run over 6 AM though, causing an instant jump scare at the end of the night in Ultimate Custom Night, causing you to lose the game after you win. However, when the character kills you, you have the chance to hear them say, "Shows are on the hour, not a minute before and not a minute later," which is funny because the show started late, causing me to lose 50-20 mode because of a glitch. Thanks, Foxy.
Number 10, FUNTIME LOLBIT. LOLBIT is obviously a variation on another female version of the animatronic. We are talking here about FUNTIME Foxy, where FUNTIME Foxy is pink and white in terms of coloring. LOLBIT instead is orange and white with purple accents. LOLBIT's bow tie and cheeks are purple, as well as their lipstick. LOLBIT basically is like a bolder version of FUNTIME Foxy, at least in terms of her color scheme. Number 9, LOL. LOL. In Ultimate Custom Night and Sister Locations Custom Night, LOLBIT can appear as an obstacle. If LOLBIT pops up on the computer screen, you must type LOL quickly into your keyboard, or tap the keyboard if you're playing on mobile. Avoiding to do so will result in you losing all control and visuals, as LOLBIT's standby screen will appear for a short while. If, however, you respond quickly enough, LOLBIT will simply disappear, leaving you alone. And friends, before we move on to this next point, if you are loving this list and you need more FNAF lists, let us know in the comments and give this video a thumbs up. Remember, every time you give one of our videos about FNAF a thumbs up, an animatronic gets their wings. Don't you want animatronics to have wings and fly around? It'd be even more terrifying for us. Number 8, missing eyebrows. A difference between the two sister animatronics is that LOLBIT seems to be completely missing their eyebrows. It must be hard being LOLBIT. I feel like you'd have very few ways to express yourself without eyebrows. It's unknown what happened to LOLBIT's eyebrows, if they ever existed, though I think it's safe to assume because they're an animatronic that they were probably just designed without them. After all, they wouldn't be alone. Balloon Boy, Springtrap, Mangle, and Bonnie all don't have eyebrows either. But without eyebrows, what do you do if something wet is about to drip into your eyes? Oh well. Oh, well, wait a minute.
And at 7, open face plan. The actual structure of the animatronic is fairly interesting. The face opens up to reveal the endoskeleton behind it in jump scares like the one in FNAF VR. There isn't really a definitive answer as to why the animatronics do this, and this remains true for all of the fun times, but the most likely scenario is that it's because they need to be able to swallow kids. More than your average village bicycle. Yeah, I mean, you can't really fit a whole kid in like a fox's mouth, especially given the shape because it's a snout. So like, yeah. Hell, you couldn't even fit a whole kid in Mangle's mouth. So the face opens up to give the animatronic more space to grab the unknowing victim, even if the endoskeleton is there, which is way weird. Like, what the hell? Why would you make the face open but keep the endoskeleton blocking it? I don't know, maybe it can move around and like maneuver itself, and that's why Ennard was possible. I don't know.
Number 6, mostly a floating head. While in FNAF World, LOLBIT did have a whole body, almost every other depiction of the animatronic has excluded their lower half, making LOLBIT mostly just a floating head. Unless we're talking about Help Wanted, but we're not talking about Help Wanted right now. They are often depicted as being without a body or an endoskeleton. Poor LOLBIT, they have no body to call their own. I guess they left their body all the way back in FNAF World. Hopefully one day they'll be able to retrieve it. Don't worry, they will. And Help Wanted.
That way doing number 5, Sharp Teeth. Despite not being a nightmare animatronic and not being animal themed, BALOR, oddly enough, still has razor sharp teeth in her mouth for one reason or another, which mostly appears to be in the game to frighten you, because, I mean, I don't really think there'd be a practical use for them unless it's just for absolutely slaughtering children, kind of like Anakin. But, I mean, she has a few more human or like dull looking teeth in the front, but behind them, oh man, it's like a shark back there. It's crazy. I don't know why. Why was this a thing? Like, Scott, dude, come on.
Number 4, Hook Hand. LOLBIT also has a hook for a hand. Well, at least the version from FNAF World does. This is another feature that sets them apart from FUNTIME Foxy, but brings them closer in appearance to the original Foxy. For some reason, their big jolly appearance combined with this hook hand just makes them even more scary to look at than Foxy for me. And I mean, I say that, but Foxy initially already kind of has a sinister energy due to their habit of sprinting and their kind of ramshackle appearance in FNAF 1. Something about how happy LOLBIT is to be brandishing that hook that makes me feel super wary of them. It's always the ones you don't expect, you know?
Getting close to the end into number 3, location confirmed. Despite the name, hurricanes are actually not the leading cause of death of children in Hurricane, Utah. This is a more specific confirmation of the location that the game takes place in, since Utah was the state that things had been narrowed down to thanks to the pay stubs we get in the games, but this just places it in Hurricane, Utah. Now, I don't think that there's much else to be learned from this. I don't think that Scott pulled a Gravity Falls with a real scavenger hunt that was planned or that was started in Hurricane, but I can't really rule it out because at this point we've jumped through hoops more than starving dolphins at SeaWorld to get lore, so a real life issue or a real life scavenger hunt like this would probably be in the cards, at least if Scott hadn't announced his retirement. But I think that since these fast facts were found in the game files and were unused, that means if there was an ARG or scavenger hunt planned, it's no longer in the works. Who knows though, maybe you'll find a woodland Freddy statue or something out in the woods. At least if it was started. Are there woods in Utah? I don't know. Can we get the king of random on this? Just go out looking. I'll join.
Number 2, FNAF World. LOLBIT initially appeared in FNAF World and was later turned into a FUNTIME variation of the character when she was added to the other FNAF games, initially as an Easter egg and later appearing as an obstacle in Custom Nights, as we discussed earlier, and then a full-on antagonist in Help Wanted. In FNAF World, she had her hook hand, which was swapped out for a full hand eventually in her full-body FUNTIME version. Well, this version from FNAF World still didn't have eyelids, eyeballs, or eyebrows. She did have eyelashes, making her look very creepily cute. Cutely creepy. Not sure which. Number 1, all the variations. Since her initial introduction in FNAF World, there have been tons of little details that have been adjusted for LOLBIT's design. The changes, however, are also more often so small that it can be kinda hard to tell which LOLBIT exactly you're looking at. There's hook hand, no hook hand, eyebrows, no eyebrows, body, no body. Okay, so maybe a few of those differences are a little bit bigger than I let on. I feel like body and no body. But for such few appearances, one thing is for certain. We have lots of variations of LOLBIT. I cannot wait to see if she'll become a more prominent character in the games in the future, and what else could possibly happen with her design. Here's hoping we see more LOLBIT.
In 9 SPRINGLOCK suits. The original animatronics featured SPRINGLOCK suits that had to be hand cranked to allow them to be worn safely by employees. This was something we already knew based on FNAF 3 minigames, but it's nice to get confirmation anyway. The original animatronic suits were SPRINGLOCK suits that could be worn by employees in suit mode or put into robot mode to allow them to perform on stage. This also confirms that the item we see in Purple Guy's hand in FNAF 2 is in fact a SPRINGLOCK crank like we've been assuming, although we did at first think that it was a phone. But now we have a better understanding, although this proposes another idea. If if that was a Springlock crank, does that mean that the animatronics purple guy was disassembling in those minigames or actually Springlock suits? Because if that was the case, we would have a whole other reason as to how the missing children died, because that would certainly be more agonizing than like a knife through the chest or something. And it ate yummy pizza. Fazbear's Twisted Pizza recipe was voted most yummy by 6 out of 10 children in every survey from 1988 to 1993. This gives us a bit more insight into the actual locations present within the FNAF universe. The existence of a Twisted Pizza also implies that this is what the Twisted animatronics were named after, and it actually makes some form of sense, at least to my twisted brain. Since if the pizza was voted the most yummy and the animatronics were meant to show you something that you wanted to see, I guess your eyes would also consider those animatronics to be the most yummy. But this could also just be an indication as to the years the Twisted animatronics were operational, since we do get the years of 1988 to 1993, which seems to line up with the events of the books and the games. Since Scott is clever in hiding Easter eggs and explanations, maybe this is what he had in mind when writing this fast fact. And it's 7, singing. BALOR is said to be talented at dancing and singing. Her goal is to get children active and apparently dancing while they balance out all the pizza that they eat. I mean, it's kind of like a dumbed down Mazercise. You get to experience her singing firsthand in Sister Location though, where you hear her sing in a really creepy voice. Like, goddamn, this thing will send shivers down your spine. She appears to mainly focus on one melody, and one of the lines that you can hear her sing in the game goes as follows. I roam these halls alone all day, but now you're here, friend and prey. Yikes. She also sings about hearing your flesh and bones. So yeah, but you know what? I think that a lot of people sing about that, or at least the people I've hung around sing about that a lot. I don't really sing about it, I more like describe it, but I mean, I've dated people who sung about it. I think that's what they were singing about anyway. It got disturbing, so I kind of like tuned it out. And at 6, the creator. The famous William Afton is the man responsible for the creation of the animatronics we all know and love. This is something that has actually been bugging me for a while, because while the books have William as a creator, we weren't sure if he was the creator or just a technician in the games. So with this line confirming William as a creator, we may be able to go back and fine-tune some of our speculation with this new information. Since he is a creator, he probably would be the only one who knew how to deal with these animatronics, so the possibility of another technician is now lower than it was at first. Him hiding the bodies in the suits suddenly becomes more plausible, as nobody would really understand how to open them, and the FNAF VR parts and service minigames become more telling, because while yes, they could have been made by the studio, the sheer complexity of them seems to indicate that William had a hand in instructing them on where to take the minigame. Perhaps this was truly how William had set up these animatronics to work, so nobody would be able to mess with this hiding spot. Because I mean, like, why would you press both sides of Bonnie's head? Like, why would you pull on Freddy's bow to get his chest to open? Just doesn't make sense.
Halfway through in at number 5, relationship. There seems to be a prevailing theory that Funtime Foxy and LOLBIT are siblings. I don't understand why or where this came from. Is it just because they look the same? Because that's problematic and requires a long Twitter discussion that results in you posting an apology video that nobody forgives. But also, like, there is no other evidence other than looks. Which is kinda nuts, because if you look up Funtime Foxy, one of the most searched questions is LOLBIT Funtime Foxy's sister. And that's weird. Like, that fits the fandom so well though. Like, most people hear something and then they trust it, and that's hella true in the FNAF fandom. People still call Crying Child Chris. Like, that's not his name. Stop it, he has no canon name, it's Crying Child.
And at 4, dangerous. In 1993, the most dangerous profession in the United States was actually night security guard. This seems to just be a funny nod at how many people die in the Fazbear restaurants, because the actual most dangerous profession from 1993 in the US was, at least based on number of deaths per 100k employed, was fishers. But based on just sheer amount of deaths, it was operators, fabricators, and laborers, with nearly 2,000 deaths. So if night security guard was actually the most dangerous job, more than 1,959 security guards would have needed to die in the FNAF universe, which is incredible to say the least. However, if we're going off the number of deaths per 100,000 employed, over 159 security guards would have needed to die, which is a much more reasonable yet still shocking number. This is also not including the fact that the president is technically the deadliest job in the US, since a high number have been assassinated. That's just an even higher percentage, but we don't talk about that.
Number 3, Help Wanted. LOLBIT also appears in Help Wanted. Here, they have eyebrows, no hook hand, and a speaker, and a full body. Similar in appearance to Funtime Foxy. In fact, Funtime Foxy is also featured in the same version of the Dark Rooms minigame there. Here you must sneak through Funtime Auditorium and avoid not just Funtime Foxy, but also LOLBIT. LOLBIT not only has a complete body in this version, but they also get their own jump scare to show off once they catch the player in-game. So you can check that out too.
Penultimately, in at number 2, CUPCAKE. Chica's CUPCAKE features a unique set of servos and its own independent suite of software. This is the fast fact that was the foundation of my explanation as to where a Shadow Chica would have gone. The fact that the CUPCAKE is its own separate animatronic means that it could be possessed separate to Chica. So if there was ever a reason for Shadow Chica, or if the Shadow animatronics are spirits that somehow got kicked out of their animatronics, Chica's shadow could have just been hiding in the CUPCAKE. But the CUPCAKE being their own animatronic is also something we've already known, since in FNAF VR's parts and service minigame, you see the CUPCAKE jump off its plate and run around before you can catch it and put it back on the plate. The CUPCAKE also got its own jump scare in FNAF 4, but that could have also just been Chica like holding it up or like throwing it at you, but I doubt it at this point. Finally, in at number 1, I wanna be a rock star. Man, Bonnie's playing Nickelback. Rockstar Bonnie was developed from the original Bonnie for use in Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria's franchise operations. This is something that is highly interesting, but not really of big consequence. The fact that Rockstar Bonnie is a development of original Bonnie indicates that maybe the original animatronics weren't melted down in the games. Sure, Candy Cadet speaks of 5 things becoming one thing, but maybe that wasn't referring to the Funtimes at all, since in the books, the Funtimes were created by melting down the endoskeletons of the original 5 animatronics to make Remnant, which is the molten soul metal, but all the metals mixed together into one horrific mess, hence why they had to come together into Ennard. Also, we also got a confirmation that the Funtimes were the first animatronics that William made, so he wouldn't have made the other ones first, therefore they wouldn't be possessed, at least in the game world. So if the Rockstar animatronics are the original animatronics just refurbished, maybe this isn't the case, and the FNAF 3 ending was accurate with the souls being put to rest, which would mean that Golden Freddy is at rest, meaning that the one you should not have killed couldn't be Cassidy. At least that's how it seems to me. But this could also be a misinterpretation, and they just meant that it was designed to be like the original Bonnie instead of using the same parts. It's not specific enough, but it does actually sound like they are meant to be the same parts, or at least the endoskeleton is the same. And again, with the Funtimes being first, that means that like they couldn't be possessed by the original 5. I mean, that's how it's looking at this point, at least until Lumix says that these aren't canon, if they end up saying that they aren't canon. And it said eyes closed. Often when you see BALOR in the game, she appears to have her eyes closed, while other animatronics often have their eyes open because, you know, it's their eyes. There's definitely something unsettling about that fact that her eyes are basically always closed. It's like she's maybe lulling us into a false sense of security, or maybe it's just that she doesn't use their eyes because, again, they're an animatronic, so why would they actually need working eyes? You don't think that she's always watching you because her eyes are closed, but she also seems to always be watching you. Do you know how creepy that is? Like, how is she able to locate you when her eyes are closed at literally all times? It's like Betty from Riverdale. Like, I've recently been catching up because I'm bored with nothing to do at home or nothing to watch. Now they have superpowers? Like, what the hell? Like, why are you trying to make this a superhero show when the CW has canceled literally all of them with the exception of The Flash? Don't do this. It got bad. But it was kind of alright. But like, don't. And at 9, BALOR. Due to her eyes being closed, some have theorized a connection between her and the mythological demon or creature known as BALOR. The fact that her eyes seem to be permanently closed and even unable to open is a fact that people tend to focus on, and this, as well as the similarity to her name Ballora, is where this theory comes from, though it is more likely a reference that she's just a ballerina. In Irish mythology, a BALOR is a giant cyclops who only opens a single eye to destroy his enemies, cause, you know, he's a cyclops. Otherwise, it's known for having its eyes shut. In Dungeons & Dragons, a BALOR is a demonic creature, often pictured with horns and wings, and people might have been pulling the name BALOR from Finn Balor's demon persona, if there are any WWE fans. I don't know, does Scott like WWE? In at 8, motivation. In the System Location game, where BALOR first makes her appearance, you are forced to shock Ballora into dancing at the beginning of the game. The frightening thing about this is the fact that you already know from the previous games that animatronics are often out to kill you. So, being forced to shock Ballora into performing just seems like a bad idea right off the get-go.
It makes you feel like you're definitely going to end up dying, and you know what you do. So, yeah, maybe you shouldn't have shot Balor. I mean, then again, maybe also shocking her kind of saves you, because then like she's in like her dark area, and maybe the fact that she has her eyes closed is because her eyes are so sensitive to light. So that's why she can see in the dark when her area is closed. But you shocking her, maybe it screwed up those circuits. You know, I'm just spitballing here, but what if it made it so that her eyes don't work properly? Hence why they're always closed. And then that's why she has to rely on hearing to try to find you. Look at that. Coming up with theories around the spot. And at 7, first location. The first location of the Freddy's franchise was actually Fredbear's Family Diner. This was also something that was merely an assumption until this point, but for a while we considered the Fredbear's Family Diner to be the first location, so at least we get some more timeline confirmations there. It's interesting though that Scott chose to confirm this particular location instead of something else that could have had more significance, which leads me to assume that there might be more to Fredbear's Family Diner than we first imagined, and that there might be more to take a look at here. The diner makes an appearance in FNAF 2 and 3 according to the wiki, although it appears that the Take Cake minigame does happen at the FNAF 2 location thanks to the security puppet minigame from FNAF 6. So maybe we should be taking a closer and more intense look at the FNAF 3 minigames to see if there's anything else we can find. And at 6, more aware. Some animatronics in these games seem to speak to you through pre-recorded lines, kinda like the Iron Man characters at Disney World. You know, they just tap their fingers and it says a line pre-recorded by Robert Downey Jr. In fact, a good number of them actually do this. Circus Baby, however, is not one of them because she's possessed by William Afton's daughter Elizabeth, and seems to be more in control of her thoughts, words, and actions, considering how, again, she's possessed. However, Balor, while not being possessed, also displays some additional awareness compared to the others. She talks to you when you are in the vents underneath her gallery, and her words and phrases seem to be outside any kind of seemingly pre-recorded lines that would actually make sense for an animatronic of this caliber. This either means that Balor could be possessed, but she's not, so it simply means that she has more advanced programming due to probably being an intentional substitute mother, because, you know, moms can't say the same thing 25 times in a row. I mean, they do, but you can't program them to.
Number 5, sister location. The whole reason that people mostly think of LOLBIT as a floating head, it's because when she shows up in sister location, that's exactly how she appears. Add in the fact that her customizable character appearance also shows her mainly as a floating head, and well, it all makes sense. In sister location's main game, LOLBIT is no more than an Easter egg. She appears as simply a recolored FUNTIME Foxy head, and is not seen as any real threat to the protagonist. Just a creepy head that's obviously meant as a nod to her appearance in FNAF World.
And at 4, her different jump scares. All of Balor's jump scares are different, but they're also all terrifying. There are some jump scares where her face and eyes remain closed, while others her face opens up and reveals those sharp teeth and her eyes are still closed. But she also has jump scares where both the inside of her face and her eyes are open. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't like that. The only thing that isn't scary about this is the fact that she has purple eyes, which honestly just links her again to Afton. It doesn't mean that she's possessed. I'm just saying that it links her to Afton because of the color purple. Anything purple we need to immediately be suspicious of, and I think we've learned that at this point. Anything purple, even slightly, is going to get called out in the comments. Even my shirt. No matter how many times I say it was an accident, no one ever believes me.
And a 3 killing machine. The animatronic, as well as the other FUNTIME animatronics, were built to kill, and this is evident based on its ability to open its mouth and the sound illusion discs, which we see they were trying to repair FUNTIME Freddy. Already talked about that. Those discs were first described and revealed in the Twisted Ones novel, meaning, like I said, that this may not be the real exterior for FUNTIME Foxy, and all the various other abilities I went over in the last video. All the FUNTIMEs could very well also just be the Twisted animatronics. However, out of the blueprints FUNTIME Foxy has, they're one of the only ones that doesn't contain some form of child. Freddy has one, Baby has one, Lefty has the puppet, which is Charlotte. There isn't really much else going on in FUNTIME Foxy's blueprint, and it makes us wonder why. Why would Scott show us things if there wasn't additional significance about the animatronic interior, aside from the fact that the endo feet are floating? Like, it makes me think that we had to have missed something. Maybe we should go back and check.
But ultimately, in at number 2, crawling.
Scott has confirmed that BALOR actually only has 2 ways that she moves. She's either gliding around on tracks, dancing gracefully, or when she's not on tracks, since she can't really do anything else, she's forced to crawl on all 4s to actually move around. That's some creepy man. That's like a demonic lady spider from hell. That's like you downloaded too many Skyrim mods and then you got out of control. Talk about things that are gonna keep you up at night. Now, I'm just gonna be terrified of spiders with boobs. I mean, I'm gonna be terrified about waking up and seeing BALOR looking down on me from the ceiling. And then have her face open up. And finally, in at number 1, security breach. In security breach, we can eventually find a table surrounded by non-functioning staff bots. However, these staff bots, you can actually notice, are also seemingly painted. And it actually contains 1 bot for each of the Afton family members. Mr. Afton, or William Afton, being the one in the top hat sitting next to what is clearly meant to be the mother, one designed like baby meant to indicate Elizabeth since she ended up, you know, possessing an animatronic. Michael sitting across from Crying Child who looks very similar to the Papa Bot, mostly because there's nothing else added to it. And the Crying Child robot who is sitting across from Michael, who fittingly is missing his head. However, a lot of people have pointed out the similarities between the Mom Bot and the BALOR animatronic, using it as evidence that the BALOR animatronic is in fact possessed by Mrs. Afton, or as these people are saying, Clara Afton, which is a whole other can of worms that I've talked about many other times. And while the 2 animatronics do look similar, and this is definitely something to take note of, I think that it merely serves as evidence that Afton built these animatronics in the image of his family, or at the very least he built the BALOR animatronic as a means of resurrecting his wife instead of actually having her possess the robot. When he made this robot, she would have already been dead, hence the design similarities and hence why he was inspired. He wouldn't really have made a robotic version of his wife if she wasn't dead, because I mean, like, they have 3 kids, so obviously things are going well there. And he only learns about possession after Elizabeth gets got by a baby, meaning that this is just to show that we were right about BALOR being a surrogate mother, or intended to be a surrogate mother, but not that she was actually possessed.